Isioma sat on the couch, her phone pressed against her ear as she spoke to Chioma. The past few months had been nothing short of exhausting. Long days in court with Ikenna over the custody of Onyinye, and long nights wondering if her life would ever settle into peace again. Since the incident, Ubonna had completely withdrawn. No calls, no texts, no reply to her endless messages. It was almost as though he had vanished. Yet, he still hadn't fired her from the company. That itself felt like a small mercy. She couldn't tell if it was pity or somewhere in his heart he still cared. I know it feels like betrayal, Chi. I know I disgraced him, Isioma said quietly, her voice heavy with regret. But I had my reasons. I was scared. I was truly scared. I've sent him messages, voicemails, even a letter. Can you believe HR called it harassment? They warned me that if I didn't stop, I'd lose my job. One of the women there even insulted me, calling me a gold digger and an opportunist. The things I've heard there, Chi, sometimes I wonder if it's even worth it anymore. I just wonder if it's worth it. Her voice broke. Yes, I lied to him. Yes, I hid things. But I wasn't trying to hurt him. I was only trying to protect what God had given me. Now look at me. Mocked, laughed at, turned into a joke online. Even at work, I am bullied and shamed. I am tired. I am so tired, Chi. Everything is so tiring. I knew I made a mistake, but am I the first person to do so? Why does life keep treating me like this? Why is my own so different? On the other end, Chioma sighing, her own heart aching for her friend. No, Issy, you're not the first. And this mistake doesn't have to be your ending. Maybe it's redirection. I love you so much. And I will tell you that God hasn't left you. Life is not beating you down for just anything. Yes, it has knocked you down over and over again. But you're still here. Look at you. You're still here. You're still strong. Please don't give up. Don't give up. If not for yourself, fight for Onyinye. Don't let Ikenna, with all his selfish deeds, all his selfish ambition, take him away. Please be strong, Issy. Hold on. Hold on. I promise you things will get better and best. Isioma wiped her face with the back of her hand. The words gave her a little strength, a small reminder that her story wasn't over yet. They spoke a little longer, Chioma comforting her with gentle words until finally she signed and said that she would call again later. The line went dead, and Isioma was left alone with her thoughts. She rose slowly from the couch and walked to the bedroom. There on the bed lay Onyinye, fast asleep, his small chest rising and falling with the peace only children seem to know. His lips were parted slightly, his hands curled against the pillow, and in that stillness, he looked untouched by all the storms that had swallowed her life. Isioma stood on the doorway for a moment. Then she moved closer, her eyes glistening with tears. She brushed a stray lock of hair from his forehead, her fingers trembling. Her heart broke at how innocent he looked, how undeserving he was of the chaos circling around them. She bowed her head, the tears now spilling freely, and began to whisper to herself, to God, to the silence of the room. I will never let this happen again. I will never let anybody make me feel this way. I will never let any man walk into my life and destroy me like this again. I will never hand over my joy to another person. Never again will I let a man be my happiness or my comfort. God, you hear me? This ends here. Her whispered vow floated into the quiet room, sealing itself over the sleeping boy like a prayer for his tomorrow and for her own. When she finally turned away from the bed, Isioma felt as though she had left a piece of her heart laying there beside Onyinye. His peace was a fragile lantern in her storm, and she was determined to never let the wind snatch it away. She walked back into the dining table and sat down, staring at her hands. They trembled slightly, hands that carried a baby, signed court papers, typed endless reports for work, wiped away more tears than she could count. They were strong hands, yet they felt like strangers to her now. The room was quiet, except for the hum of the fridge in the corner. Outside, a dog barked, then silence returned. Life felt like that to Isioma. Moments of sudden noise, an attack, followed by heavy, suffocating quiet. She rested her head on the table, the wood cool against her damp cheek. God help me, she whispered, her words no louder than the ticking clock on the wall. Help me to be mother and father. Help me to stand when all I want to do is fall. A flicker of strength rose in her chest, small but stubborn, like the first flame of a matchstick. She thought of Ikenna, his selfish smile in court, the way he twisted words like rope, trying to tie her down with them. She thought of Ubonna too, his silence cutting deeper than insults ever could. Yet in the middle of that ache, she also thought of Onine's laughter, bright, bubbling, untouched. The sound was her anchor. That sound reminded her that joy still exists, even in ruins. No more, she whispered again, this time firmer. Her voice wobbled, but it carried. No man will ever be the author of my happiness. That pen belongs to God. That pen belongs to me. And for the first time in weeks, her chest loosened. The tears were still there, but they no longer drowned her. Instead, they cleansed her. The next morning, Isioma woke up to the soft weight of Onine's arm draped across her shoulder. For a moment, she lay still, listening to his gentle breathing, as if the sound itself was a lullaby meant for her. The sun slipped shyly through the curtains, painting thin lines of gold across the room. It was a new day, but her problems hadn't disappeared. The custody battle still waited. The whispers at work still stung. Yet, something in her felt different. She had drawn a line in the sand the night before, and though her feet were trembling, she was determined to not cross back over it. By the time she had stepped out of bed, her face was set like someone wearing borrowed courage. She moved through the morning slowly, packing Onine's lunchbox, tying his shoelaces, smoothing down his little shirt. Every small task felt like an act of defiance. I am still here. We are still here. At the courthouse later that day, she sat on the hard wooden bench, her fingers knotted in her lap. The courtroom smelled faintly of paper and polish, the kind of place where lives were reduced to documents and signatures. Isioma sat stiffly, her palms damp against her skirt, while Onyinye's picture lay tucked in her purse, her hidden courage. Ikenna strutted in like a man attending his own coronation. His suit was sharp, his cologne loud, and his smirk louder still. When his eyes met hers, he gave a small smile, the kind that said, "You have already lost." The judge entered, ropes flying, gravel striking against the wood. Court in session. Ikenna's lawyer went first, his words smooth as oil. He painted Isioma as unstable, a woman who lied, who couldn't be trusted with a child. He described Ikenna as a responsible father and a pillar of stability, his voice dripping with rehearsed conviction. Isioma's chest tightened, but she sat still, whispering inwardly, "God, fight for me, for Onyinye." Her lawyer countered, speaking calmly of Ikenna's selfishness, of the storms Isioma had endured, of her devotion as a mother. He asked the court to see not just papers, but a child's future. But then, to her surprise, the judge looked at her directly and asked, "Miss Ikene Delichukwu, do you wish to say anything?" Her throat ached, but she stood, her knees trembling. "Yes, Your Honor. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. But one thing I've never failed at is being a mother. My son is my heartbeat. Every decision I have made, every tear I have cried, has been for him, not for my pride. I fight because Onyinye deserves peace. He deserves love. He deserves a future free from chaos." Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. "I may not have riches. I may not have power. But I have love. I have faith. And with those, I will raise my son." The courtroom hushed. Even Ikenna's smirk faltered. The judge leaned back, thoughtful, reaching for his pen. Just as silence thickened, Ikenna's lawyer sprang to his feet. "Your Honor, if I may, before any ruling is given, we have new evidence." His voice cut through the room like a knife. He held up a file, his expression triumphant. "Documents that shows Miss Ekene Duluchukwu withheld certain truths. Truths that questioned her credibility and stability as a mother. As known, even her previous partner left her because of these reasons. We request that this evidence be reviewed in full before any decision is passed." Murmur rippled through the courtroom. Isioma's stomach dropped, her eyes widening at the performed lie. Her lawyer quickly stood, his voice respectful but firm. "Your Honor, we ask for an adjournment. We request additional time to review this so-called evidence and to prepare our response. My client deserves a fair hearing." The judge's gavel struck once. "Very well. This court will reconvene in 2 weeks' time. Both parties are expected to return prepared. Until then, custody arrangements remain as they are." The sound of benches creaking filled the room as people rose. Isioma's knees weakened, but her lawyer's steady hand on her arm guided her toward the exit. Outside, the afternoon sun glared down at the courthouse steps. It should have felt warm, but to Isioma, It felt heavy, like a spotlight on her shame. Ikenna passed by with his lawyer, his smirk restored. "See you at the next round," he muttered, his voice dripping with arrogance. Isioma's heart pounded, but she swallowed her fear. She tightened her grip on her bag where Onyinye's picture lay, whispering underneath her breath, "Lord, if you brought me this far, please don't leave me now." And with that, she walked away down the steps, not defeated, but not free yet. The battle was far from over. It was Monday morning when Isioma's inbox pinged, and she nearly dropped her coffee. An email from a company she barely remembered applying to maybe a year ago, or even before Ubonna had come into her life, had finally arrived. "We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted for the position of. We look forward to welcoming you to our team." Isioma blinked twice, three times. She even pinched herself just to be sure she wasn't dreaming. She had applied so long ago. The memory had faded like old jollof rice at the bottom of a pot. And yet here it was, a door opening. She hadn't even realized she was knocking on. The company was out of the city, but the position was solid. Not top tier, not flashy, but respectable enough to give her a fresh start. Enough to tell life, "See me now." Her hand shook and then laughter burst out of her, loud and a little hysterical. The kind of laugh that makes people wonder if someone just discovered free money under their pillow. Her colleagues, the same ones who spent weeks whispering about her life and turning her into office mascot of gossip, suddenly froze. Some shot her side eyes. "I think that Monday miracle they happen." Others whispered behind their hands, faces twisted like they tasted sour uba. "Which kind wahala don't happen to this one?" Isioma didn't care. She let herself bask in the moment, her joy spilling like egusi soup in a pot that refuses to stay close. She whispered under her breath, "God, you never leave me, oh, see me. This one a start. It's a start, oh." She imagined herself walking into the new office like a queen arriving at a coronation, her chin high, her aura shining brighter than the office fluorescent lights ever could compete with. And for the first time in months, she felt untouchable, not because of the title, but because finally life had handed a small victory that was wholly unapologetically hers. Even in the middle of the office, with her former mockers watching, Isioma's heart laughed louder than she had ever did in a long time. "I beg, let them watch me. Today na my show," she said in her heart, overjoyed. Isioma got home that evening and felt like she was walking on clouds, each step lighter than the one before. The email had transformed her whole day into something bright and golden. She dropped her bag, picked up her shoes, and laughed loudly, half in disbelief, half in pure joy. The first person she called was Chioma. "Chi, you won't believe this, so," she shouted over the phone, nearly tripping over the rug in excitement. She told her everything: the mail, the position, the company far away from everything. Chioma squealed from the other end, almost screaming like someone who they had just won a Jet 2 holiday. "Isi, miracle truly not the tire Jesus so. Chioma laughed. "Chai, see God and work. See, it don't start, oh. It don't start and it go finish am in Jesus' name." Amen, my sister. Amen, Isioma shouted out of joy. Next, she called her mother. Mama Amaka's voice rang warm and strong. My daughter, you say? Oh God, I thank you. I dey shout for joy here o. See as God don answer our prayer. Na him dey do am o. Chai! Hey! No be small miracle. They laughed, prayed together, and Mama Amaka reminded Isioma that no matter what wahala wey you don waka through, God never sleep on you o. Ha! God never sleep on you. He still dey awake. The God wey we dey serve no dey wear flip-flops, so he can never flop o. Ha! Abeg, come house this weekend make we celebrate. Yes, mommy, Isioma enthusiastically said. And then, with a trembling heart, Isioma dialed Pastor Bless. He was no longer in the city, but had been transferred to a new church, preaching in a different place. The moment he answered, his voice filled with warmth. Isioma, how is my warrior daughter today? Isioma shared the good news, her voice bubbling with tears and laughter at the same time. Pastor Bless shouted a prayer across the line, like he was launching it with fire and thunder. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. You dey hear the cries of your children. Ha! This is a big testimony, Isioma. God bless you more and more. Many more testimonies will come. God will continue to make his face shine on you more and more. And it has started well. So shall it finish well in Jesus' name. Amen! Isioma screamed on the other end. Three of them, her best friend, her mother, and Pastor Bless, laughed, shouted, and thanked God together. The kind of celebration that made Isioma feel like she was in the middle of Sunday service, right there in her living room. Even Onyinye peeked at her from his playmat, tilting his head curiously at the noise, as if sensing that something joyful had happened. As she ended the calls, a wave of release swept over her. For months, she had carried the burden so heavy it burnt her spirit. But now, for the first time, it felt lighter, as though someone had quietly lifted the load off her shoulders. Tears mixed with laughter, and joy rose up, fresh like water from a long, dry well. She jumped up, grabbed her speaker, and blasted a gospel song, so loud the walls practically vibrated. She was dancing, Jesus, yeah, you have done it again, in her living room. She had transformed it into a small church. She danced, spinning and swaying, clapping her hands, as though angels themselves were drumming along. Little Onyinye, innocent as ever, soon bounced on his feet. He didn't understand why his mother was dancing, like she had just won the lottery. But the music was enough for him. With his tiny feet stomping and his baby giggles ringing out, he joined her, hopping from side to side like a chick trying to keep up with the hen. Isioma bent down, grabbed his hands, and twirled him in a circle, laughing through her tears. Mommy got a new job! She shouted over the music, her voice trembling with joy. Onyinye squealed, clapping his small hands, not knowing what he was celebrating, only that his mother was happy, and so he was too. In that moment, in the living room, it became a holy ground, filled with laughter, music, and sweet, unexplainable presence of hope restored. God don't show face. This one not just that. The week went by like a blur as Isioma prepared her resignation letter for her old job. She carried herself through those last days like someone who had already packed her bags out of a toxic relationship. A polite smile, but no energy for wahala. Before anything else, she had to visit Abuja to see where she will be moving to. That weekend, she left Onyinye with her mother, who was more than happy to soak up grandma duties. With her son safe, Isioma packed light, just one small overnight bag, her faith, and the phone number of her boss's secretary, Bisola. They had arranged to meet up to help her find a place to move to and adjust into her new environment. She hugged Mama and Onyinye, then set off. The journey itself felt like freedom. Each kilometer away from her old life was peeling off a layer of sorrow, like shaking dust off her sandals. When she arrived in Abuja, her first call was to Bisola, who helped her settle into a hotel. To her surprise, the big boss herself was in town and requested to meet Isioma before she officially resumed in 2 weeks. The woman, Miss Bukola, was a well known business magnate, the type whose name alone could scatter fear in boardrooms. Isioma had been nervous walking into the meeting. Her palms were damp and her heart thudded like a drum. But the moment they sat down together in a quiet lounge restaurant, her boss's chatty, down to earth spirit calmed her. What Isioma thought would be a stiff interview turned into an amazing chat. They laughed, shared stories, and fell into an easy rhythm as though they were long lost friends catching up after years apart. By the end of the meeting, Isioma's nerves had melted away completely. Then came the surprise of her life. Her boss leaned back, smiled, and said, "Since you will be relocating for us, the company will provide you a furnished apartment, rent paid for 1 year, and also you get a car to help you settle into Abuja quickly." Isioma froze. She had come all this way with nothing but faith, a small overnight bag, and plans to meet an agent to start house hunting. And now, here she was, God handing her a home and a car through this woman. Her joy spilled over. She laughed until tears blurred her eyes. God, now you dey do this one oh. You no just open door for me. You carry me inside and spread table before me. Later that night, she called Chioma and Mama, and the three of them shouted and prayed until Isioma's hotel neighbors probably thought she was running a one-woman church. As she lay in bed afterwards, staring at the ceiling, smiling to herself, she thought God was indeed rewriting her story. Monday morning, the office felt the same fluorescent lights, the low hum of printers, people working like ants on a mission. Isioma walked in with a quiet, steady smile, the resignation letter folded neatly in her hand. Confidence sat on her shoulders like a well fitted jacket. She eased into the chair opposite Miss Adebayo's desk and placed the envelope gently on the table. "Good morning, ma," she said with a confident smile. Mrs. Adebayo looked at the letter with a disgusted look and answered, "Morning," in a demeaning tone. Then she picked the letter without bearing a glance at Isioma and began to read it. "Letter of resignation," she said in a mocking tone, squeezing her face in disgust like yesterday's puff puff. She threw a look at Isioma over her glasses and then she burst out laughing like a wicked witch. "Letter of resignation." Her eyes narrowed as she leaned forward and pointed at Isioma with her red manicured nails. "Isioma, let me tell you the truth. When that whole scandal happened, when the whole company was buzzing, people were asking questions, and our business partners questioned our boss's method of finding a bride in a single mother who lied her way into his life. People talked and talked. Yes, it was none of their business. But news headlines, blogs, in fact, Obonna couldn't set foot outside his own house without being intruded with interviews, all because of you. Or is it when your baby daddy showed up to our office demanding that he sees the boss so he can convince him to get rid of you? The chaos was too much, oh. It was too much. I begged Obonna to fire you. I begged him. Because you did not deserve another chance. You do not deserve it. Yet, after everything you have done, out of the goodness of his heart, he still let you stay. He closed his eyes to everything and allowed you to keep earning salary so you could at least feed that bastard child of yours. So you could pay lawyers and keep dragging your baby daddy in court. He gave you grace that nobody else could have given you. Isioma sat still, quiet, her smile faint but steady. Madam Adebayo's voice grew louder and sharper. And now, instead of being grateful, she smiled bitterly. You brought a letter of resignation to my office and folded your arms like a big madam, staring at me and smiling. I swear you are smiling at your calamity. You think opportunities like this come every day? Eh? You think that there's charity out there waiting for you like this? You're ungrateful, oh. You are so ungrateful. In fact, you are wicked. I don't even know what he saw in an old used cargo like you. Second-handed woman. She hissed and reached for her pen, looking to sign the paper. Then she paused. She looked up through her glasses and saw that Isioma was utterly unperturbed by her words. Oh, it pained Miss Adebayo. It pained her so much. She straightened up, resting her elbows on the desk and the pen below her chin. A storm was brewing in her as she took in Isioma's confident smile and demeanor. She immediately threw the paper on the floor and yanked her glasses off her face, placing it quickly on the desk. Yet, Isioma was still unfazed, staring straight into Miss Adebayo's eyes. Go, she said angrily. You want to go, right? You are fired. Isioma, you are no longer needed in this premises. Leave! She yelled as she pointed at the door. Isioma, with a confident smile still planted on her face, stood up, picked the letter, and placed it on the desk. She walked to the door, then she paused and looked back. Good, because you will never hear from me again. And with that, she pulled the door open and stepped out, her stride so sure. It looked as though she was walking on clouds. Her sudden appearance in the hallway drew every gaze. Colleagues froze mid-task, some with mouths open, others exchanging quick whispered comments. A few laughed mockingly, some shook their heads, muttering things under their breath about her big move. She thinks she's better than everyone, they said. But Isioma didn't flinch. She didn't falter. Each laugh, each sneer only made her spine straighter, her steps surer. She walked past them all, heels clicking against the floor like drum beats announcing her freedom. Without a glance back, she reached the main doors, pushed them open, and felt the sunlight hit her face. She strode to her car, slid into the driver's seat, and exhaled, not in relief, but in triumph. Even as some colleagues shook their heads and chuckled, thinking they had seen her humbled, Isioma sat tall, confident, untouchable. She started the engine and drove away, leaving the office and their whispers far behind. Preparing for a new city was not easy. Isioma had to leave little Onyinye with her mother, so whenever court hearings came up, she could travel back without worry. The house felt emptier without his giggles echoing through it, but she consoled herself that every sacrifice was a brick in her path for their better life. Her first month at the new job was like breathing after being underwater for too long, refreshing and freeing. Her boss was kind, smart, and had quickly taken a liking to her. Work no longer felt like punishment. It flowed easily, like she was finally in a place meant for her. Still, reality had its claws in her. Ever so often, Isioma had to request time off for her court hearings over Oninye's custody. Her lawyer, a sharp-tongued man who didn't play with nonsense, managed to stretch the case just enough to slow Ikenna down. Then one afternoon, Isioma heard a rumor, the kind that traveled fast like an epidemic. They said Ikenna's sudden fatherly love wasn't about affection at all. Everyone had somehow witnessed how Ikenna denied Isioma's pregnancy and refused to father Onyinye. Word had it that his wife had given birth again to three bouncing baby girls right after the first girl. Four girls in total. Ikenna's face had apparently looked like he had tasted sour milk when the doctor congratulated him about his triplet girls. And because life in Nigeria always finds a way to turn drama into politics, Isioma learned that Ikenna had to claim a certain chieftaincy title and sit among elders. With his chest out, he needed a male heir, not just any boy, but the one that legally bore his name. It wasn't enough that he already had a son. He needed custody to parade his child like a family trophy. That was when he remembered the forgotten stone, little Onyinye, the same child he once ignored, now suddenly valuable for his selfish ambition. Plus, to him, it felt like a final blow to Isioma. Isioma could only shake her head when she heard it. So after all these years, na chieftaincy title go wake fatherly love? He even has the audacity to drag me in court. No shame or compassion for what he is putting his own blood through, she muttered under her breath. I regret the day I met that idiot, that capital fool, such a selfish and self-centered human being. Ah, God will not shame me. God will not shame me. God will fight for me. I will win this case. She raised her hands and looked up. Isioma continued to pour all her energy into her new job and her new life, not just to build herself, but to fight for her son's future. She was ready to face Ikenna tooth and nail in court, ready to stand firm until she won and protected her son from his father's selfish ambitions. The fight for Onyinye would be her last battle with Ikenna, the final storm before her peace. Evil will not win this time. She was not powerless and she knew it. God will save her from Ikenna's grip and she will win this case. She will finally take her life back and her son for good. By her second month of traveling back for court hearing, Ikenna had somehow sniffed out new information, the kind of gossip only a man with too much pride and free time could dig up. He had discovered that Isioma no longer worked with Ubonna's company. Worse still, he had learned that she now lived in another city, flying back only for court sessions and leaving Onyinye in the care of her mother. When they appeared in court that week, Ikenna came prepared for the show. His lawyer, with his slick tongue and well-ironed suit, presented the revelation as if he had uncovered national secrets. He told the judge that Isioma had been fired from her job, that she was irresponsible and an unstable woman who left her young child behind just to chase a career in another city. He spoke with so much confidence, you had think he was auditioning for a Nollywood film. Isioma sat quietly, her hands folded on her lap as the lawyer painted her like some careless woman with no direction. Deep down, she could almost laugh because every fight, every long night, every sacrifice she made was for the same child they claimed she had abandoned. But she stayed calm. She learned that sometimes silence was louder than shouting. Her lawyer quickly rose up to defend her, pointing out that there was no evidence that she had been fired, only assumptions and gossip. My client is a hardworking mother trying to provide a better life for her child, he said firmly, his voice steady. Relocating for work is not abandonment, it is sacrifice. Isioma nodded slightly, her eyes fixed on the judge. She wasn't afraid anymore. She knew Ikenna could twist the truth, but he couldn't bury it forever. Lies might run fast, but truth always reached the finish line. The court session ended, with tension hanging in the air like harmattan dust. From the look of the judge's face, it almost seemed as though Ikenna's side had gained the upper hand. The words of his lawyer still echoed in Isioma's head as she left the courtroom, words twisted to sound like truth. She didn't even know whether to cry or scream. It was as if the air itself was pressing down on her chest. She walked out quietly, her heels clicking against the marble floor, each step heavier than the last. Her lawyer tried to encourage her, but his words sounded far away, like echoes in a tunnel. By the time she got home that evening, the sadness had grown into something deeper, a quiet, bitter ache that settled in her bones. She looked at her son, sleeping so peacefully beside her mother, and the tears she had been holding back finally slipped out. She wanted to be strong, but at that moment, she just felt tired, so tired. It felt like no matter how hard she tried, life kept handing her the short end of the stick. The next morning, she packed her small suitcase and flew back to Abuja for work. Her body was there, but her mind was still trapped in that courtroom. Even at the office, her fingers froze over the keyboard more times than she could count. Her boss noticed it too, the blank stare, the long sighs, and the way she sometimes forgot her coffee untouched on her desk. Her colleagues thought she was just stressed, but only God and her heart knew the weight she carried. The thought of losing Onyinye haunted her every minute. It played in her head like a bad song on repeat, loud, painful, and impossible to turn off. At night, when she lay in bed, she would close her eyes and whisper, God, please, not this battle again. The next day passed as a blur. After work hours, the office was quiet. The hum of computers, the distant clicking of keyboards, the soft buzz of the air conditioner. Most people had gone home, but Isioma still had a few reports to complete. During a short break, she sat staring at her screen, her mind far away. The words in the document blurred into one another until they made no sense. She wasn't really seeing them. She was seeing the courtroom, hearing Ikenna's lawyer, feeling again that sunken dread in her chest. She didn't even realize when tears began to fall, silent and uninvited. tracing paths down her cheeks. It wasn't until she heard a soft voice behind her that she jerked up. "Are you okay?" Isioma turned sharply to find her boss, Miss Bukola, standing just a few feet away, arms folded, concern written all over her face. Uh, ma, I'm fine," Isioma stammered, quickly wiping her face. Miss Bukola tilted her head, unconvinced. "Well, you don't look fine to me. You've been crying. And before you lie again," she smiled gently, "I've been standing here for almost 5 minutes, watching you drown in your thoughts." Isioma looked embarrassed, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry, ma. It's nothing serious." "Are you sure?" Miss Bukola pressed softly. "Talk to me. Maybe it's something I can help with. You never know." Isioma hesitated. For months, she had been bottling everything up, the shame, the fear, the exhaustion. But something in Miss Bukola's calm voice broke down her walls. "Yes, ma. I don't really want to bother you with my problems," Isioma began softly, her voice trembling. "But the past few months have been a battle, a very heavy one. I'm fighting so hard not to lose my child, my only source of hope and joy. It's the reason I wake up every day, the reason I still believe there's something to live for." Isioma hadn't expected the words to pour out the way they did, but once they started, she couldn't stop. And to her surprise, Miss Bukola didn't just listen. She leaned in, her eyes full of understanding, and gently comforted her. "No mother deserves to be separated from their child," she said firmly, "especially not because of a man's pride and greed. You hear me? He will not win this case, and I will make sure of it." Isioma blinked in shock. "Ma?" Miss Bukola gave her a small smile. "My younger brother is a top lawyer. I will send him to represent you. Don't worry, you'll win this." And just like that, hope flickered in Isioma's chest again. And as God would have it, Miss Bukola's younger brother, Tunde, the lawyer, did more than just show up. He came armed with facts, records, and witness statements that tore down every one of Ikenna's lies. Bit by bit, the truth unfolded in court until the judge could see everything clearly. When the final verdict came, it was like breaking through dark clouds. Isioma had won the case. The moment the judge's words rang out, declaring that Isioma had won full custody of Onyinye, the court erupted in a mix of relief and jubilation. Her mother threw her hands in the air, tears streaming down her face, while Pastor Bless shouted a loud "Thank you, Lord," that echoed off the walls. Her family and a few close friends jumped up, clapping and hugging each other. The kind of celebration that made it felt like the whole world had paused just to rejoice with them. In a corner, Ikenna sat frozen, his face pale, his mouth slightly open, holding his lawyer tightly, bewildered. The reality hit him like a ton of bricks. He had actually lost. For once, all his schemes, his manipulations, his arrogance had not worked. He left the court in silence, shame radiating from him like smoke, while his lawyer struggled to offer comfort he didn't even want. Amidst the cheers and the laughter, Isioma felt a warm hand on her shoulder. She turned and saw Tunde, Miss Bukola's lawyer brother. He was smiling at Isioma, eyes sparkling with pride. Congratulations, Isioma, he said, his voice calm but confident. You fought hard, and justice has been served. Onyinye is lucky to have a mother like you. Isioma smiled, feeling an unexpected lightness in her chest. Thank you, sir. Truly, I don't know what I would have done without your help. You and Miss Bukola are truly God sent. Tunde shrugged modestly. I just did my job. But let's be honest, the real credit goes to you. I only put the evidence together. You were the one fighting in the shadows all these months. I'm proud of you. They started walking out of the courtroom together, and the noise of the celebration around them. And Isioma couldn't help but feel a little spark of curiosity about this calm, capable man who had just helped her take her life back. So, do you always take impossible cases? She asked lightly, trying to mask her exhaustion with humor. Tunde smirked. Only when the person has a mother's heart and refuses to quit. Isioma laughed softly, shaking her head. I like that answer. I hope Oninia grows up knowing how much people can help when God guides them. Thank you again. As they walked, she felt a strange, comforting sense of destiny that sometimes, even in the middle of storms, God sends the right people at the right time. Miss Bukola and her brother Tunde had been just that, destiny helpers, angels walking in human form. For the first time in months, Isioma allowed herself to breathe. Finally breathe, knowing the battle of her son was won and her life was finally on track again. The presence of Miss Bukola in Isioma's life felt like more than just a boss or a mentor. It was like as if God had sent a guardian. She was truly, genuinely God sent, a destiny helper who appeared at the right moment to change the course of Isioma's faith. After the custody battle was won, it felt as if one miracle followed another. From that victory, Isioma's life seemed to open like a flower in full bloom. She was soon flying out of the country to represent Miss Bukola's company in international business meetings. She attended conferences, closed deals, and made waves in the industry, carving a name for herself through hard work, integrity, and sheer brilliance. Amidst all this success, her friendship with Miss Bukola's younger brother, Barrister Tunde, deepened. What started as a professional admiration, mutual respect, blossomed into something warm and tender, a connection that made Isioma's heart feel lighter than it had in years. Their friendship had grown into something warm and tender, almost like the beginning of a love story. But Isioma couldn't ignore the knot of uncertainty in her heart. After everything she had been through, the betrayal, the humiliation, the battle for Onyinye, she didn't feel ready to give her heart to a man again. Not yet. Maybe it would take years for her to fully heal. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Isioma and Tunde sat together, the city lights outside casting a soft glow through the window. For a moment, there was only a hum of the office behind them and a gentle rhythm of their own breathing. Tunde turned to her, his eyes steady and sincere. Isioma, I have to tell you something. I've been holding it up for quite a while because I don't want to ruin our friendship. I like you, I like you a lot. More than that, I think I've fallen in love with you. I want to be in your life, Isioma. He held her hands. I see how smart you are, how brilliant you are. I admire your strength. I admire everything about you. The way you still love no matter what you've been through. I want to be the man you wake up to every morning, the one who supports all your goals, your dreams, and aspirations, the one who is always by your side, loving, supporting, the one who loves Onyinye as his own. I see you, Isioma. I hear you, and I love you. I want to be there for both of you, if only you would let me. Isioma felt her chest tighten, her heart, so long battered and cautious, clench at the honesty of his words. She shook her head slowly. Tunde, I can't. After everything I've been through, I'm not, I'm not ready yet. I literally cannot open my heart to a man right now. I don't feel like I'm able to. Not yet, not now. Tunde reached out, gently placing a hand over hers. I can wait for you. I will wait. You are worth the wait. Your love, our love, or whatever will blossom after this is worth it. I won't pressure you, Isioma. I will wait for you. She looked at him, her voice almost a whisper. No, I don't want you to wait for me. I don't even know if I will ever fully heal. To trust a man again, to trust anyone. I mean, even if I do, I might not be ready to be with a man right away. I don't want to hold you back, Tunde. You're an amazing person. Please listen to me. Please don't wait for me, please. You're an amazing man. You can find any other woman out there. Tunde smiled softly, his hand still on hers. I don't mind. Really, I don't mind, Isioma. Isi, you don't have to give me your heart right now. I'm not going to pressure you or any time in the future. Our friendship, it already means so much to me. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here by your side all the time when you need me. That is enough. I will wait. I don't care if it takes years or decades. I will wait for you. Isioma felt a small, grateful warmth settle in her chest. For now, she didn't have to give her heart. For now, she could focus on Onyinye, her career, and rebuilding her life. But she knew that with Tunde's patience and presence, a beautiful chapter might someday begin. Things truly blossomed for Isioma as she settled permanently abroad. 2 years of hard work, dedication, and late nights had transformed her life. From representing Miss Bukola's company in international deals to navigating corporate challenges with grace and ingenuity, she had grown into a force to be reckoned with. Her colleagues abroad admired her brilliance, her resilience, and her ability to turn every challenge into a stepping stone. She was no longer the woman haunted by Ikenna, by whispers and gossip. She was thriving, unapologetically herself. After 3 years, inspired by her journey and a desire to create something of her own, Isioma decided to open her own small organization. Miss Bukola, far from feeling any hint of jealousy, became her fiercest supporter. If anyone can do it, it's you, Isioma. Bukola said with a wink, as if passing her a baton of destiny. Slowly, the company took shape, growing steadily, gaining clients, and earning respect in the industry. Within 2 years, it had grown to an impressive extent, a testament not just to Isioma's skill, but to the tenacity that carried her through every storm. But her heart didn't stop there. Guided by the lessons of her own life, she launched an NGO to empower single mothers, women who had been abandoned or marginalized. She wanted them to see that they could reclaim their lives, just as she had. With Tunde by her side, patient, supportive, and unwavering, she turned the organization into a sanctuary for women seeking strength, independence, and hope. Onyinye, Isioma's little miracle, had grown into a remarkable boy, bright, clever, and kind. He had made her proud every single day. Tunde, forever by Isioma's side, loved Onyinye like his own. He was like a present father, always teaching, always supporting. Isioma had given him her answer a few years ago, as their love for each other only blossomed and bloomed. Although she had not shown too much interest in marriage, she wanted to take everything slowly, and Tunde respected that and was ever patient and loving. Together, they formed a little universe where love, laughter, and lessons intertwined. Isioma's story became more than a personal journey. It became an inspiration. Every time she returned to Nigeria, media outlets clamored for interviews. Blogs, television shows, and podcasts wanted her to share her story, a tale of faith and courage. And she told it beautifully, every word soaked in emotion, every pause heavy with gratitude. Her tears were not about sadness anymore. They were proof of battles fought and won. She would tell them about the dark days, the betrayals, the night when she cried herself to sleep, praying for Onyinye, and how God carried her from the valleys of grass to the bright horizons of grace. During one of her interviews back in Nigeria, Isioma leaned forward, her eyes shining with emotion, the microphone catching every word as she began to speak. You know, she said, her voice soft but steady, I grew up thinking that life was all about men and marriage. From the moment I could understand the world, I was told to study hard, yes, but also to find a good husband. She laughed. Everything I did, school, work, even my dreams, were somehow, somewhere, always tied to a man. I believed my worth, my happiness, my future, my being, my whole life was worthless if I was unmarried and not chosen. I totally depended on someone else to give my life meaning. And you know what? I almost lost myself because of it. She paused, taking a deep breath, a small, rueful smile tugging at her lips. I chased what I thought I needed, although I had a good job after university. But I needed a good man, a perfect marriage. People were beginning to talk. My mom was talking too, obviously, advising me to take the next available suitor and marry because it seems like I was cursed or something. People said I was bewitched. that I was getting old and no man would love to marry an old woman. That made me desperate. That made me accept just anybody that was willing and available and looked good enough to be my husband. Rookie mistake, I will say, she smiled bitterly. I won't go into the full detail, but yeah, I completely lost myself, forcing things, forcing my life, forcing myself into someone else's life. I gave away so much of my energy, my being, my heart, trying to fit into someone else's life, trying to force my way through. I let fear, shame from society, and the weight tell me who I should be. And at times, I felt like a pot of soup that someone else kept stirring too much, boiling over, losing its flavor, losing itself. A laugh escaped from her, then, soft but genuine, like a release of years of tension. But here is a twist. When I finally stopped trying to live my life for everyone else, for society, I decided that my son and my dreams mattered more than marriage, more than being chosen by a man. I discovered something amazing. I discovered me, and it felt like stepping out of a storm into sunlight for the first time. She leaned back, looking at the camera, eyes glistening. So, yes, my life was once centered around men and marriage. And that's what society expects of us, women. It almost destroyed me. But I fought back. I reclaimed my joy, my purpose, my voice. And I am here today, through God's mercy and grace. My pastor, my mother, my amazing friend, Chioma, telling all women out there, especially those like me, single, vulnerable mothers, every girl should know their worth. Your happiness, your life, your dream, it matters. It does not belong to anyone else. Not a man, not society, not fear. It all belongs to you.